Society Uncensored is the podcast where interesting and intelligent conversation collide. It's the avenue to discuss all the things society seems to neglect, sugarcoat, or turn a blind eye to. We're covering topics such as self-sufficiency, discrimination, relationships, religion, and anything in between. On Society Uncensored, we speak with respect, morality, and most importantly, authenticity. Tune in every week to get personal, get encouraged, or get real. Now let's get into it, y'all. Welcome back to Society Uncensored. I got some guests here with me today. I'm Sadara.
I'm Taylor. And I'm Nicole.
Me and Nicole already been talking a while, but if y'all wanna, how y'all doing?
Good.
Really good today, man. It's a good weekend right here.
Y'all got
nice
a full off day today?
No, I don't think so.
Y'all got
I haven't
practice?
checked though. Like I'll check around like 5 o'clock.
Your practice gonna be at 6.
Girl, I'll check around. Look, 4 o'clock then. I'm pretty full.
Well, the last time we left off, it was just me and Taylor, but we had got into like just talking about, just I guess how the difference between like how white people and black people are prepared for adulthood and the reasons why. And we was just talking about how it's a lot of stuff that we're not taught being raised, and white people just come into adulthood just being ready to take on life, just knowing more information about like credit, about buying houses, just a bunch of different things. So I just wanted to pose the first question, I guess, just like, why do y'all feel like minorities are at a disadvantage when it comes to like entering adulthood?
I actually think a lot of it is just the lack of knowledge from the parents. I think generationally there has been just some kind of I guess you could say gaps in the learning about certain things. So you don't know what you don't know. So I think for a lot, like, think about it, generation, like right now, when you think about the tech world and everything that is going on with tech and STEM and things of that sort, I know my parents are lost. They can send an email.
For sure.
So they would not have been able to teach that to us. Even with me having my children, I feel like are more tech savvy than I am. So teaching them about careers in that field, teaching them about, hey, this is where it's going, but I haven't seen that future before. It's kind of hard for me to relay that.
Yeah.
But I mean, like I said, the biggest part is just the access and the knowledge, and we haven't had that. As a people, we haven't had that. We're getting it now. And hopefully we're not gatekeeping it, and we can continue to kind of pass it on to the next generation. But we've got some catching up to do.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely think so too. What you think?
Well, the part where you said that you were teaching your children, like, about the new careers and about things that they could do, outside of just like being a basketball player or rapper or something like that. My parents didn't have that education background to come from their parents, but when I grew up, I went to a pretty good school, and then my parents, they raised me when I was a kid, but then as I got older, my mom, she moved up in her job as well, like corporate business type stuff. She's a banker. So she taught me a little bit about credit. She taught me, she didn't want me to get a credit card. She was scared. I'm not gonna lie. She was a little afraid for the credit card, but she taught me a little about credit, what, if it could go good, how it can go bad. She taught me about investing in properties and, different things like that. And that's just something, I don't think I could get from her mom or my grandfather or anyone else, but I think I could say I am now more fortunate. And then it's just like, if you're going to listen and take the information in, because there are some people who my mom would try to talk to and, even close to me, and she'll try to feed them this, information just about setting up their future. And I mean, it goes one ear and out the other, and it's just depends on how they, want to take in the information most of the time. And I guess I could say I'm, a little more fortunate than, my mom's parents or my dad's parents were. So that's my take on it.
I think that's cool that your mom was able to like teach you about credit and investing and stuff like that. Because even with me being older than you, hearing that is kind of surprising because my mom didn't know anything about that, and she didn't teach me anything about like credit or anything like that. I'm still learning and trying to fix my credit right now. So I think it's cool that you're able to have that. And honestly, I was gonna ask, like, I know that there's just a lack of knowledge that comes along with the reason why it is the way it is. Do y'all feel like that is it just ignorance in itself, or is it partly like a negligence that goes with it?
I do believe it's a negligence because we're not trying to educate ourselves as much, but it's just a matter you don't even realize you need to know that stuff. I mean, I was taught how to open a checking account and how to balance a checkbook and things like that. But actual financial literacy, as far as wealth management, money management, investing, what portfolios look like, what credit is, things of that nature, I believe my parents are still learning. And honestly, I don't even know what type of real investments they have that's not offered through their jobs. As far as something that they're seeking out on an individual basis, what were they told? I mean, they weren't told anything.
Right.
But at the same time, you have to get to a point in life where you want to find out for yourself, and once you want to find out for yourself, then you'll educate yourself.
Right.
So if you're not doing that, then you are neglecting. You're neglecting what is to come.
I feel that. I definitely agree, and I think that like it's a negligence too, because like, especially when it comes to money, it's like a lot of times we don't have the money to play with to be able to like find out certain things or seek out certain knowledge, because it's like you don't want to take chances on stuff that you never really knew about, or let's say like your mom didn't know about it, your cousin didn't know about it, somebody to have that experience to let you know like, yeah, you can do this and it's going to work out for you. So I think like even with me and just learning how to fix my credit and stuff, it's certain things that I'm scared to pursue because I'm like, I don't know if it's going to work, and I don't want to like spend this money to try to fix my credit and then it not work out the way I wanted it to. So
I think that comes with just the risk of wanting to learn. Like, there's going to be risk in wanting to invest and wanting to put your money somewhere that's not something pleasurable. You don't have to start off with like thousands of dollars to invest. Like, for instance, just because like right now I'm, my mom and dad are helping me out with school. So just saving up the little money that I can, and possibly like after school or while I'm in school, getting this internship. So things like that can help you advance in wanting to at least like personally like fix your interest in like your work life, and then just saving money in general. Like, it doesn't have to be thousands of dollars. So I know people are scared about getting loans and things like that, but I'm not gonna lie, if you have good credit, like, in getting a loan and investing in something is scary. I'm not gonna lie, it's scary, but it's kind of what I'm thinking about after college, or even while I'm in college. Do I know a lot about it? No, but my mom, she works with people who minorities, actually. She works with minorities at Hope Credit Union, and they help people get loans so they can start like small businesses, so she can help out their small business, or people that want to build houses. Like, there's people in Memphis right now who are trying to build up like the more like the broken communities, fix their homes, and they do it, sometimes some of them do it for no profit at all. And I mean, they started off with little to nothing, and then as they grew their credit, they learned about it. As they learned about their credit, and they realized that they could invest in, like, that keep saying properties, but honestly that's like the most that's where the income is coming
business
from. Yeah, that's where the business is at. So it'll take a while, but investing or stacking up your money slowly, like really slow, instead of thinking that you need to have like thousands of dollars to like put somewhere, I think it'll free your mind a little bit, more than thinking you need like to be sitting on stacks,
Yeah, I think too, like, just life moves faster than it did back in the day.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you did need a lump sum to get something started for yourself. But now, just with all the different technologies and different avenues that we have to do stuff, like you said, like, it's not as hard, it's not as complicated, and it's not like you have to have this big build up to just get your life started. Yeah, I can definitely agree with that for sure.
That's a difference in that starting line, though, between black families and non-black families. A lot of times, though, is that they have things invested even before they are of age.
That part before they was even thought of.
Yeah, and things are being set up before the child becomes a college student, before the child becomes a young adult. I guess one example comes to mind is I had a coworker. They lived in a trailer on this land property growing up. Her children, she raised her children out of, and then they built the house. But then the children grew up, went to college, came back. One of the children actually moved into the trailer. Now, by that child moving into the trailer, they have no rent. They have they only have house bills. It's on land. They were able to use that as collateral in order for them to get the down payment to buy their house, to build their house. And they were able to build their house on the same property. So not even having to go buy another lot of land.
Sharing property taxes at that point.
So it's things like that as a black community, we used to do it, and then we allowed other people to come in and tell us that we can't do that anymore, or not necessarily allowed. It's systematic.
Right.
It's been systematic.
Right.
So it's been made sure that we can't. Redlining is a real thing. Discrimination is still, loan discrimination, financial discrimination is a real thing, and it sets their future and their generational wealth up better than what we're able to do for ourselves. Had I had it my way, if I had half an acre of land, I would be like, okay, well, we're going to split this half an acre 2 or 3 more ways so that everyone has some kind of land or some kind of invested in their name. But it would be hard for me to tell either one of my children right now, say, hey, your next paycheck, give me $500. I'm going to go invest it into a land. They're going to be like, Mama, my next paycheck, $500 is going to be this, and this.
Right.
So I think we've just gotten into a cycle of spending and not investing. And that was something that was strategically set up to make sure that we're always behind as a people.
Right.
We've got to be better.
I feel like that's with any ethnicity, because like they want us to be consumers. Like I don't know when I say they, I don't know who y'all picturing.
we know who they
I
is
don't know
though.
who y'all picturing,
The
but I
top
got an image in my
1%.
head. Like I have an image in my head, but definitely being a consumer. Like y'all, last night my mom, I ain't putting you on blast if you watch this, but she was like, "Oh, I really like this for Valentine's Day. Like we should dress like this and that." And like for the whole Valentine's, and I was like, Ma, if you buy me that, it's gonna be, I'm gonna wear it one time, maybe twice, and it's gonna be sitting in my drawer, like at the bottom.
Exactly.
I said, Ma, I don't need it, I promise you. But back then I would have been like, oh, you know what? Why not? Like, oh yeah, let me get that, or let me get that, But I mean, I don't think we know, like, when do we know when to treat ourselves or when to like put our money away type things? Be like, nah, I can't have that. It's like an addiction at this point, I guess.
And I think too, the way that our lives are set up, a lot of the times, like, I don't know, it's kind of like we always been in that cycle where we got to get a lump sum to do a certain thing. Like even if you just turn 18 and you got to get out your mom's house, you got to save up enough money to go get your own apartment. You got to do this. So it's like we always we just working to be able to save, to spend it on something, and then working to be able to save, to maintain something. Yeah. And it's like we don't see past it because the cycle is so big, it's so grand. And like honestly, I'm glad that I'm in college right now, because being out of that cycle and being able to see life differently and not have to clock in every day and work a job just to maintain something that's not going to give me any ownership at the end of the day, like that's not something that I want to be doing. Like I aspire to have at least a half an acre of land to do something with, to be able to just have something that I could call my own, to be able to do something with that is an investment that I could turn it into many different things if I wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
And it can't be the quick money that we're trying to get. We're so
Right.
stuck on
That's all we know.
What's the quick money? How can I flip $50 today and turn it into $500 tomorrow? And honestly, the stuff that sustains don't work that way. It's not that
Right.
quick. We weren't taught that, but I mean, like you said, we were taught save your money, save your money, save your money, get your house, save your money, get a car, save your money, do all this stuff. But other than, I mean, even houses depreciate to a certain extent,
Exactly.
and you're having to put money in. We're not taught save your money. Go get a bunch of land that's sitting there for their taxes to be paid. You know, like that
I
kind
was
of
just
stuff.
on that website the other day. I can't wait.
We've got to reshape how we think and how we move. A lot of stuff with money though is we're so personal. We don't want anybody. It's so much shame, and we judge each other off of what they have, money
For sure.
and
Haves and
materialistically,
have-nots.
and we'll never get ahead that way. And we won't get ahead pushing our kids out the door at 18 and saying, hey, you're 18, you're an adult now, get out.
Thank you.
Because that's not, it's not realistic. A lot of the families that live collectively, when you think about what Hispanic culture is, there's a lot of Hispanics that live as multi-families in one household.
Mm-hmm.
And they do that so that they can kind of pool resources and pull money together and things like that. I mean, I don't know of any family household in my family that is multiple families in one household.
That's kind of, I feel like that's a trauma response for me. If it happens, it's like, well, something happened with your auntie, so they got to come stay with us.
Exactly.
Or something happened with somebody, so they got to come stay with us.
Or it's
But
age.
Everybody feels
That
like they have
part.
to be so like self-sustained. Like, oh, I'm doing good, so it's cool. But like, soon as someone's doing bad, it's like, oh, it's like they don't shame yourself. Like, I feel like most people just shame themselves into like not seeking for that help type stuff.
And I think too, the fact that we want to be so self-sustaining is kind of a reason that we can't, because it's like we don't realize how much we need other people.
Yeah.
Like I used to work with my first job was at Wendy's, and I used to work with probably like
Spend some Wendy's time.
probably like 3 or 4 of my coworkers were family, and a girl that worked there ended up marrying into that family while we was working there. But like they was all living in the back of Lehigh, all in one house, probably like a 3-4 bedroom, but like everybody had big trucks. Everybody was fed every night. They had health care or just like child care for all the kids. Like they never needed, or they never had to outsource for anything they needed because they had each other. And it was like I couldn't understand, like I guess I couldn't see it for myself, because I feel like multifamily black people in one household, it's going to end up dysfunctional at some point. But, and it's not to say that theirs is never dysfunctional. It's just that they know, like they see the bigger picture outside of everything. So they'll never let it get as far as we tend to do.
Yeah.
But can you imagine that dysfunction is happening anyway?
Exactly.
You
And we
know,
all
like
alone.
we're still having stuff that we're having to deal with as families, and we're not being resourceful within our own families.
That
I look
part.
at John Morant's house. I don't know. I just saw that recently. John Morant like has pretty much his whole family in one house on one compound. Boosie just did it
The
with his
compound?
family,
Yep.
with his compound. We've got to get back to that way of thinking. We came over with that way of thinking, and they've dissected it and broke it down to a point where they've made us believe that we're only going to be stronger as individuals and as individual entities, and that's not the truth.
Oh,
That part.
If we gonna touch on this part where you say it used to be like that, them Black Panthers, they was trying to, y'all know about them Black Panthers. Y'all remember they was trying to make our own communities, our own schools, our own like markets, like all that. And then at one point, I feel like, them higher ups was like, you know what? Why don't we just have everybody combine? Let's just combine everyone. Segregation was dumb. Like,
like
let's
just
not. Like,
just
you
to
guys,
stop what we got, stop our
like,
motion.
exactly, guys. That
part.
was dumb,
Yeah.
guys. I'm sorry.
You know what?
Let's
We
come together.
we can tolerate
Exactly.
y'all.
The color of your skin doesn't matter.
I think that too. We just don't realize as a people like how powerful we really are when we are together. Like, it don't matter whether it's a cookout that we throwing. It don't matter whether it's a family reunion. It don't matter whether it's a protest. Like, it's always such a powerful thing when we come together, no matter what it is. And I think that we got to realize that, and we have to use that to our strengths, because all of us out here, like, even just my age group generation of like everybody trying to get their own place and just find a one person to be with and have this life and build a family and all this stuff. And it's like, they just kind of, I see that they're running into a struggle life, but it's like, I can understand why it's so glorified, because of what we've glorified for so long. It's like, get your own stuff, find your person, have a family. And it's like, you end up with 2 kids and a baby mama, and it never works out how you thought it was. But like, if you didn't get kicked out at 18 and had to figure out your life would be different for you. But we never really think that far.
Like, I would have much rather, even at this point, I would much rather if my kids were renting a room for me than renting from where they're renting from. Now, of course, no one wants to move back home and then with their parents and things like that. Totally understand. But the type of independency that they think they would not have, they would probably still have, because we would be conscious that they are adults. But it would allow them to save more money than what they're doing now. And we're not thinking like that. As to your point, as far as what we were once doing as a collective and how integrating kind of messed up the Black people world, because we had things going, and then when they said let's integrate, then they kind of disregarded all the Black people stuff and said, oh, we're going to integrate you into these schools that you were not in before. We're going to take your teachers that were teaching you. They're not going to have jobs. They're going to have to go find something else, because we're going into these better schools that's going to be integrated.
But us looking at other people's example is what life is supposed to be.
And it was strategic. It was a good move. The Panthers, they broke the Panthers up because they knew what kind of power was behind it. Every Black neighborhood that has been built and that has been successful from it's way back in time was either burnt, the people was murdered. They were very
drugs.
they were
talk about it.
Yeah, they were very strategic as to how they would break up that type of power. Tulsa is like the just ultimate just disregard for Black people life and disregard for Black people power and everything. Because how do you burn down a whole town? How do you say, you know what, y'all are self-sufficient over here, you're doing what you need to do, and we don't like that, so we're gonna come up with a reason to get rid of everybody. They did it Tulsa, they did it Rosewood, they did it and it's still happening. Gentrifying is something that came about because they just had to give it another name, but it's really the same thing. And just we're allowing it to happen to a certain extent.
That's true.
Because of the way we interact with each other. So yeah, how do we combat that? Because we are powerful. As a people, we are powerful. As a people, they want to be like us. So
exactly.
So how do we pull all of this together and we just say, you know what, we're going to put down these differences that we have. Like, we can't be mad at the ones that have made it, that are successful, all along with the ones that's living on government assistance and things of that nature. Like, how do we either pull those people up, or how do we continue to just as a people get together and say, we want something better?
I think as a people, we have to realize that we have to stop glorifying the dollar, honestly. Like, not saying that it's not very useful for a lot of things. Obviously, that's our form of currency. But the way that we go about it, and this hustle culture that we have, and this my culture that we have, and this quick money culture, like, that's really what's killing us, and that's what's taking us away from the sense of community that we used to have, the sense of like anything you need, I have, and anything you got, I'm like you gonna offer me, like this barter system that we used to have. You scratch my back, I scratch yours. You make me a meal, I watch your kid. Like we just don't have that anymore because everybody is trying to get their own bag. And we don't realize, like, if we all pulled together our bags, we would have so much, like we would have more than we needed. But at the same time too, we can't trust each other to bring our bags together, because there's selfishness, there's greed, there's misogyny, there's narcissism, like all these different things that are also a part of our traumas that haven't been dealt with. And then we disperse, and then we go and live this life that leaves us where we at. So what, if y'all could pick like two things, what would y'all say are two things that you wish you were taught or introduced to before you reached like age 18 or whatever you consider as adulthood?
Man, just two. I think
I guess we could go one for one or something.
Personally, financial planning, financial management, a little bit more in depth about just not what money is, but what's finances, because it's totally different. Money and finances is different. I guess the second thing I wish I would have had more knowledge on is just maybe, I don't even know how to say, like health and wellness, or body and awareness and self-identity. I was very much brought up in the church and was made very aware of my place spiritually, but as a physical being on earth, it was not discussed as much. And just getting more knowledge on what that meant, and
like how to be a person.
How to be a person.
Seriously,
what being a
that's
woman is. Emotional intelligence. As children.
You just said like 3 different podcast idea episodes. Like I swear, I'm talking about word for word.
Like Black children, we're told to be respectful, sit down, and shut up.
How to think, how to act, how to eat,
like you don't interrupt adult conversations. You don't even have adult conversation, and that's fine and dandy. I get the respect level of it, but at what point, at what age are you having those
adult conversations?
You have to, or else you put these children out in the world, and they're dependent on the world to have those conversations with them, and the world is going to tell them all of the bad stuff,
a whole lot,
and some more. So I think more of those conversations could have happened. Just to make me a better human being. I'm not saying that I'm a bad human being now, but I do feel like the self-discovery that's happening now could happen at an earlier age if those conversations was heard.
So much further in life. I'll definitely say that I got to steal that one from you. Like just how to be a person, because like just me even trying to do this podcast, like I've been procrastinating. It's 2025 now. I've been planning this since 2021. But just not knowing how to present myself to people, how to just put myself out there, how to even network and outsource to get people to do this along with me. Like it's so much stuff that I didn't know about how to be a person, how to like start conversations, continue conversations. Like it really is a struggle. And sometimes like it leaves me like really not knowing who I am. And it's like, I know I'm this powerful person, and I know I'm such a leader on the basketball team, just in all these different areas. I know that I have good things to say, and I can host a podcast, and I can be a coach. But like, as far as who I am and how I present myself to people, that's something that I really am honestly still struggling with. And like therapy helps with that also. But like, I feel like if I would have been working on that, even just like, let's just say I would have started like when I hit puberty or in high school, like I seriously do feel like I would be further along in just my journey of just knowing who I am, just my journey of self-discovery, I guess. So I could definitely agree with that one for sure. My other one would probably be just like what I wish I would have known what college really was and like what it entailed. And I know that at the same time, like I said, life moves faster now. So college looks different now than it did back in the day. But I wish that I would have known like that it wasn't the only option. I wish I would have known that trade school existed. I wish I would have known that there were different opportunities that would put me ahead, even if I was to go to college. I just wish I would have known there were different things that could pique my interest, and not just like, because honestly, for a long time, I just thought that college was this big scam, especially like just you spend 4 years getting this degree, and I would probably say 7 out of 10 people that I meet just in life itself aren't working in the field that they got their degree in. And that's when I realized that really kind of got me, because I'm like, okay, 4 years of my life, I could be spending it, putting it into something else that will get me into something that even I guess with money becoming such an important part of life also. Like I probably would have chose to go to trade school for the first 2 years right out of high school instead of coming to college, just because it would have put me into a kind of more guaranteed source of income, and at the same time I still could branch off and learn how to make a podcast or how to become a coach or whatever it would have been. But I think that like just not knowing it, I wasted some time that I wish I could get back for sure.
I ain't gonna lie, y'all. Those were some amazing points. Like, really, really good. I think, me only being 19, I've had around like 4 jobs. I wish I would have known how to save my money better. Like, my mom used to just tell me, like, you don't need a job. You don't need much to do, like, with your money. Just go to work and, buy what you want and stuff like that. But at the same time, like, as much money as I've touched, like, even though I'm 19, just from working, I feel like I could have been, like,
bro,
when
you see that
financially-
W-2, you be like, I made this much money. Hold on.
Bro, I've had so many jobs, and I wish, like, I think at one point our parents want us to grow up better and have more than what they did and stuff like that. But then, my parents was 19 and they had 2 kids, and about 21 when they had 21, 22, they had 2 kids. But my daddy, like, he had already been, he's driving trucks. My mom, she's working like, credit unions and stuff like that. But and my daddy's telling me stuff like he had money like stashed in the wall. He had like, all this. He was buying diapers. He was buying all of this. I'm like looking at my pocket like, dang, lick coming out. Ain't nothing but lick coming out my pocket right now. But I just wish, as much money as I know I touched, I wish I could have saved more of it. One, maybe to like help my parents out a little bit more and not just going out to just like spend it, crazy. But
Right.
I guess now I could learn from my own mistakes, but especially just financial literacy. That's all I would have to say about that, because y'all have already touched on the other ones like self-identity and all this other stuff. Just confidence, man. I feel like if I was introduced to those conversations like with adults, and I'm not talking about like I don't when they're just rambling or gossiping and stuff like that. No, I don't gotta be introduced to that. But anything other than just self-identity, who you think you are, like shaming, your kids for having certain thoughts, and they're new, like, we're new to the world too. So these thoughts that we're having, and then having technology is, like my parents didn't want me to have technology, but when I got it, like I was introduced to a whole bunch of stuff.
Googling everything.
Man, I was introduced to a whole bunch of stuff. So instead of like getting in trouble or shaming for knowing like what's actually out there, maybe talking to me about what it is and about what I was experiencing within myself would have pushed me way far, along in life and my confidence and my self-identity than it is now. So, yeah, that's how I feel about that one.
I come from a family, listen, my parents were, they built us up based off of our achievements, and we were all very academically, achievers. We were the all-A students with the perfect attendance. That was the good citizens that, everybody knew that everything coming out of our household would progress academically. The part that we kind of missed the buck is we didn't talk about anything else, and we knew that we would be put on a pedestal as long as we kept achieving. But what does that mean from a just an individual person? Like I knew I was very confident in my ability in high school. I knew that I could pass a test. I knew I would get an ACT score. I knew I could get in college. I knew whatever sport I wanted to play, they would support and all of that stuff. What I didn't know was anything about my real self-confidence and my own self-worth, because I was basing my worth off of what I could achieve. As I became an adult, I realized that was my mentality. My worth is based off of my achievements. It doesn't work for relationships. It doesn't work for professional. I mean, and now as an adult woman, now I'm having to try to break down that as to
and navigate it, and how do you rework your mind,
and at the same time trying to break it down, but then when trying to talk to my parents about it, them just being like, "What are you talking about? Like
you're so great. You pass every test.
You talking like that's a bad thing." And it's like I can't get through to, and even talking to my therapist about it. The therapist is just like, "Well, this happened because of this and this and this." And then when you go and you try to talk to your family about it, it's like, "Oh, that therapist is just telling you something." So you no, we really got to sit down.
It's really you have to reteach them. So that you have to teach them so that they understand, and then put yourself into it. So do you see how you did this to me? You got to bring it so full circle, and it is really hard.
Yeah, because it's not to talk about. Listen, my parents did a wonderful job. You talk about your parents having two at 21, 22, whatever. My mom had me when she was 20. She had my brother when she was 23. Then there was a divorce and then a remarry. And I look at my parents. They were, let me see. My mom was 30. She had just gotten remarried, and now it's 7 kids in the house. So you go in just a decade, you go from a married mother of 2 at 20 or 1 at 20, and then now you're 30. So in 10 years, you go from 1 kid to 7 in one house. And now you're on your second marriage. I wasn't even married at 30. I can't even imagine being married with a combined family with 7 kids in the house. And I'm on a nurse's salary, and we've got a pretty steady medium-sized middle income household, but it's 7 kids in the house. I'm 30.
Imagine how much life she missed out on.
It's a lot.
Support. That's 10 years of just diapers, 10 years of school, 10 years of just worrying about everybody else outside of yourself, to where you. And I can understand too why a lot of mothers, once their kids are grown and gone, they have to revisit, okay, who am I? Because all I know is what I do for my kids. I don't know anything outside of it. And that's tough. That is tough for sure.
I do have a question though, why do y'all think that women get put in those positions, especially Black women, and sometimes more lower income white women also, they have a whole bunch of kids, or they settle with someone, or they settle with someone that isn't as I guess emotional or intelligent about just a woman in general, about what happens when you have children, about the financial, is it just because the lack of knowledge, or what?
I think that we're not taught how to navigate relationships for real. And we're not taught what's the give and take of certain relationships, what boundaries come with certain relationships, and we only really see the relationships that we came from, our mom and dad, our aunties and uncles, or the people above us. And it's we only know love and relationships the way that we see it, to where it's that's why, I was saying with my generation, all we know is get a place to stay, find somebody to love, and have kids and make a family. That's the only thing that completes us, because that's all we've ever seen. But we don't know love for real. We don't know partnership. We don't know what it means to be emotionally intelligent with somebody else. And I just think that we want as humans, we want a feeling so bad, and we chasing a feeling. Like, even if it's just you get to 18 and you're chasing that feeling of becoming a woman or becoming an adult, like, we want the love that comes with it. We want the financial stability that might come with it, the home stability that might come with it, to the point where I feel like we all just end up chasing the same thing, and nobody actually talks about the real life of it until they're talking about they shoulda, coulda, wouldas. Like, it's never like, hold on, I experienced this. Let me take a step back and see why this is the way it is before I get myself into the point where I have a kid and I can't go back, or something of that sort. So I think, honestly, I think it's a lack of being taught about relationships and how to navigate them and what we're supposed to get out of them, like I said.
I would totally agree with that. I mean, you talk about just emulating what you see and what you grew up around. If your parents are together as you're growing up, then you're like, oh man, they're together, they made it, I want something like that, because I would want my child or children, offspring, whatever I plan on doing, to grow up around something like that. No matter what your childhood was like, you say, okay, I want two parents in the household. If you come from a broken family, then you're like, I don't want a broken family, so I got to go find what it is that I do want. Either way, the discussion's not being had at the kitchen table around, okay, so what do you think family is, and are you attracted to people of the opposite sex or same sex? What does that look like as a family or as a unit? Are you interested in marriage or not? Do you see yourself having kids? Like, those type questions that we're not asking the children, because we're figuring they're still children, but that's still questions that can be had at 16,
I was
17,
I was the child asking my parents. I remember when I actually found out that I like women, I asked her, like, I remember we was riding in the car and I was like, well, I remember the first time she found out, and she was talking about the sexual aspect of it, and she asked me, like, can you see yourself doing that? And I was like, yeah, and that was the end of that conversation. But I remember, like, it kind of just died down and became like, it just assumed as a phase that I was going through. And I remember one time riding in the car, I asked her, I was like, how would you feel if I married a woman, and like, would you come to the wedding? Like, and she just told me, like, I would hope that you wouldn't, I would hope you wouldn't do that, and I would hope that you wouldn't bring kids into that type of lifestyle. And other than that, like, that was kind of all she said about it. You know, it's always like with Black people, I'm gonna love you anyway, but such and such and such. But that's kind of what it was for me.
We've got to get that but out of it, though. It's not that I'm gonna love you anyway, but we just got to be like, I'm gonna love you anyway. And it's so hard for us as people, as Black people, to just say that. Exactly. But it's gonna happen. It is gonna happen. I mean, we are going to love. I think we're just making it much harder for our children to receive our love than what it should be.
That's where it comes at, like, a negligence. I think it's more negligence than ignorance in that type of aspect, because I think that a lot of times they choose to just be set in their ways and only see life the way that they're used to seeing it. And don't get me wrong, like, my parents have come around to at this point, like, I've had 3 girlfriends, so it's kind of like, okay, this is something that she does. Like, okay, I guess we just gonna have to deal with this, like, tolerate it or whatever. And I've been able to have more conversation with them as an adult and, like, just open their eyes to the fact that just homosexuality is a real thing. Like, it's actual feelings that are inside of somebody. It's not just like people trying to do wrong in religious terms for no reason or something like that. Like, you got to understand that people do see themselves in a certain way, and that's why they have these feelings. And it's been good to at least have them, like, hear that they are more open-minded about it, because when I was younger, it kind of just felt like, okay, I'm about to be on my own with this. Like,
that's how it was for me too.
Those are those type conversations that's just not happening. It's not like it's never been around, and then all of a sudden in the 2000s it came around. Like, homosexuality has been there throughout the test of time, like everywhere. So it's just conversations that we've got to start opening up our mouths and talking. So much within a Black family that we don't talk about. We don't talk about We don't talk about our ancestry. We don't talk about things that happened in the family before we were alive. We don't talk about our parents' mishaps and maybe what our parents did. They're so quick to be like, oh, I lived here before. I've done this before. You're trying to get away with something that I've done and
they
done
just
it
want
better.
You to know you ain't slick,
and it's like, cool, I get it. I'm telling you that you're telling me that you've done it before, but you're not telling me about like what the consequence was of you doing it. Like,
and how to navigate it, how to like, what was your thought process going through
you
it?
telling me you done it before at 15, 16, I'm just thinking I can do it better than you because I'm that arrogant in myself. But
some people get scared to the point where they just don't try at all
until they get away from their parents. Then they try it.
I was gonna say that's a long time to try it, man.
But no, we just gotta start talking more. What I can appreciate about like podcasts like this or what social media and what the internet is doing right now, it is bringing up conversations, and it's allowing people to possibly like shoot your parent a link to something you watch,
right? So you can feel me,
yeah, so that the conversation can start. But we've got to be receptive of that. Like parents of all ages, of all backgrounds, of all colors have got to be receptive of that, and that's where we're struggling. I mean, I could say that if either of my children came to me and said possibly anything, it's not going to change the love that I have with them. Now, if they decide they want to become some serial killer and go off ending lives, that's something different. But anything that would have to do with their relationships and who they choose to love and who they choose to date and things like that, my main concern is always just safety. Whatever the other person is as a partner, no matter what situation it is, it's always about a safety perspective. Black people, we get so caught up in the church and we're so caught up in that's against God, that's against the Bible and all this kind of stuff. And I get that. And I have my own beliefs about certain things. Right. But at the same time, it's not like homosexuality hasn't been in the black church forever. Exactly. And what's good for this one can't be bad for this one. Either you got to stop teetering the line and you got to stop being hypocritical about things, because I'd much rather my child be gay than my child out here rape and murdering and killing and stealing and all the other sins that has nothing to do with sexuality or who they choose as a partner.
Especially if they could be doing it like as like a spiteful response to you not accepting a certain thing.
We push. I feel like as black people, we push people into a corner by saying, "Oh, I don't want you to do this. I don't want you to do this. I don't want you to do this." And then next thing you know, when the person is doing that, it's a rebellious act. Sometimes, other times, it's just if they find themselves that way, then that's just what it is. That should not define the person. Right. By no means. Gay, straight, otherwise, it should not define you. You should be defined by the character of person you are and what you put out into this world and what you're trying to do to better yourself and to better the others around you. That has absolutely nothing to do with your sex, your gender, your partner preference, and all of that. Like, you as a being should just be being that authentic version of yourself. And it's tough. It's tough because you feel like you're going to get judged. You feel like you're going to be unaccepted. And we got to do better about that. We really do. There's acceptance that's happening on all levels, in all cultures, different ways. And we're fortunate enough to be in a country like America where we can be our authentic self whenever we want to be that authentic self. So why can't we stand in it?
Exactly.
So we're getting there. Stuff like this is helping.
That part. I think too, we just have to put more value into our relationships and how we treat people. And I think that it just bleeds into parents and how they treat their kids and how they teach their kids, and also understanding that relationships are what make up life, and whatever you pour into your kids, that's what they're going to put out into the world and onto other people. And that's what that's what they're going to be able to share with the world. So I think that being able to be a more well-rounded person as far as knowing who you are and knowing what you stand for and all these different aspects and being enlightened to these different topics, it just creates for a better person all around, honestly. And I think that parents, especially Black parents, we gotta I know it's a lot that we have to pay attention to. I know that we stuck in a lot of different cycles of a bunch of different things, but I think that we have to remember that we're putting out more people into this world that can either help or harm it, and we got to be more mindful of what we're putting into each other, honestly.
Gotta heal the whole self.
That part.
Whole
Thank
self.
y'all for joining me today. I feel like this was a really good conversation, real deep. I think I want to tie into maybe in the next episode, just tying into how parenting as a whole affects our relationships, just as a whole, just the relationships we have access to, the relationships that we seek out, the relationships that we end up building, the ones that we cherish, all of that. So if either one of y'all want to join me for that, that would be nice. Yeah. But thank y'all for being here today.
Oh, really, you're welcome. Anytime. Thank you for having us.
For sure.
So, again, happy MLK Day.
That part.
Yeah.
Happy MLK
Day. Happy MLK
Can't
Day.
that one.
Yeah.
Well, I'm Sadara.
I'm Taylor.
And I'm Nicole.
Thank y'all for tuning in. This has been Society Uncensored.
Bye.